In less than 1 week, Troy Davis is set to die for the murder of a police officer in Savannah. And today in Atlanta, Davis supporters delivered more than 600,000 petitions to the Georgia Pardon and Paroles Board seeking to stop the execution. And CNN's Gary Tuchman has the Davis story and the reason so many are now calling for his life to be spared.
It's anything but a routine question.
How scared are you of possibly being executed?
But it's relevant because the man I'm talking to, Troy Davis, may soon be a dead man. A jury only took a few hours to decide he was guilty of murdering a police officer in Savannah, Georgia. A few more hours to decide on lethal injection. Brenda Forrest was one of the jurors.
He was definitely guilty. All of the witnesses, they were able to, to ID him as the person who actually did it.
There was no DNA or physical evidence against Davis. The primary reason he was convicted? Witness testimony. The slain police officer's wife trusted the witnesses.
They were just so adamant about what they saw, when they saw it.
But this is how the juror feels today.
If I knew then what I know now, Troy Davis would not be on death row. The verdict would be not guilty.
What she knows now is this. Almost all of the prosecution's star witnesses have changed their stories. Some saying police pressured them to say Troy Davis did it. One of those people is Daryl Collins, a prosecution witness who signed a police statement implicating Troy Davis.
I told them over and over that I didn't see this happen. They put what they wanted to put in that statement.
Savannah police officer Mark McPhail was working an off-duty job here. He was providing security at night for this bus station and for this Burger King restaurant that is currently out of business. There was a homeless man in this parking lot who was being harassed and intimidated. He yelled for help. The officer ran over, and seconds later, Officer Mark McPhail was shot and killed. It was tragic, horrifying, and chaotic. And 2 decades later, it all still is.
The man who admitted to harassing the homeless person went to police the next day and told them he saw Troy Davis shoot the officer. Wanted posters went up all over Savannah. A reward offered to catch the so-called dangerous cop killer. Racial tensions inflamed. After the shooting, Troy Davis was in Atlanta 4 hours away. His sister says scared for his life.
So when my brother decided to turn himself in, they already had a shoot-to-kill order on him.
This man, Derek Johnson, a pastor, got in touch with Davis. He volunteered to pick him up and drive him back to Savannah to surrender. He says Troy Davis insisted he was innocent. The pastor, who has never told his story to a reporter before, was stunned. The DA's office never interviewed him.
You're with this man for 4 hours. You're bringing him back to Savannah to police custody. They never interviewed you?
Never talked to me.
Never asked you a question about your journey?
Never.
What he said, if he had a weapon, if
Nothing.
he admitted to the crime, if
Nothing.
he didn't admit to the crime?
Nothing. And this is the one case where nobody wanted to know. And I don't think now, looking back, that anybody cared.
The pastor is one of many who now believe, facts be damned, Troy Davis was going to be arrested for murder. As for the Savannah police, they have always said their witness interviews were taken properly, no coercion, and prosecutors have stood by the conviction. But a number of witnesses have signed affidavits changing their original testimony. Dorothy Farrell is one of them, a former prison inmate. She writes, "I was scared that if I didn't cooperate with the detective, then he might find a way to have me locked up again. So I told the detective that Troy Davis was the shooter, even though the truth was that I didn't see who shot the officer." And a witness named Jeffrey Sapp now writes, "The police came and talked to me and put a lot of pressure on me to say Troy did this. They made it clear that the only way they would leave me alone is if I told them what they wanted to hear." During the trial, Davis's attorneys tried to convince jurors a man named Sylvester Red Coles was the killer. We tried to find Coles to give him a chance to have his say. We talked to his family members, but could not track him down.
I don't believe that Red Coles is the one that killed Mark at all.
But among those who believe the case should be reopened are politicians who don't always agree with each other, ranging from former President Jimmy Carter to conservative former Georgia Congressman Bob Barr. Troy Davis has been hours away from execution 3 times. He's now 1 week away from his 4th execution date. Gary Tuchman, CNN, Savannah, Georgia.